if gold's rising and investors want to have exposure to a rising gold price, well, there's a couple options for what you can buy. You can obviously buy the majors, and that's where a lot of the big money goes, and so they certainly benefit. But another really good way of getting exposure to the gold market, and arguably one with more leverage, is owning companies that are doing this transition. They're going from spending the money and doing the work to get a gold mine ready, transitioning to producing gold and selling it into a strong market. That provides like a tangible reason for a company to be worth more. And so that's what we've been focused on delivering.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're delighted to have this returning guest who is a supporting sponsor of Liberty and Finance. Gwen Preston, the VP of Communications with West Red Lake Gold, joins us again here. And Gwen, thanks for joining us again on Liberty and Finance.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a little while, and we've got lots to talk about.
We had you on at the Rural Symposium in Boca Raton, Florida last July. We had you again after that, and you were giving us updates and frankly whetting our appetite for a reconciliation study that was being done to pull together a number of different drill results and correlate and corroborate your predictive model of what you thought and hoped the asset in the ground concentrations of gold would prove out to be. You've got those results in. You've come back on here to report back to our viewers and subscribers, and that we are eagerly awaiting your update here. While you're giving us that update, I'll bring up on the screen some of the graphics that I received in my inbox that will help give a visual to go along with what you're telling us, because it sounds like it's some pretty encouraging results, and we'd love to hear more.
Absolutely, yes. They're very encouraging results. And so just to set the stage here, I mean, what we did is we got underground at the Madsen mine a year and a half ago, more than a year and a half ago. We started driving new tunnels to get to different parts of the deposit. And we did that so that we could do more drilling into the deposit. The deposit needed more drilling so that we could create a more accurate model of the resource. That's how these things always work. You do your first estimate of the amount of gold that's in the ground and the shape of the deposit based on a certain amount of drilling. And then as you get close to actually mining that rock, you want to make sure that you really know where the mineralization is. So you do more drilling, and then you can refine your resource model, and then you can engineer your mining around that really accurate resource model. So we got underground a year and a half ago, started doing a bunch of that definition drilling work, and that mine design work. And so we've been doing that for a year and a half. We have, starting about 6 months ago, we slowly started mining some of that mineralization. And I say slowly started because it takes time to ramp crews up. And we were learning a little bit, especially in the early days, about just how it worked to mine underground at this particular deposit. And so the first 15,000 tons of what we will mine at Madsen, we structured that as a bulk sample. So we did that so that we could really, in a very structured way, we could compare what we thought we were going to get out of the ground with what we actually got out of the ground. And that comparison is really important because investors need to see evidence that our approach works, right? And so we structured it with independent observers watching the whole process. They got to see that updated resource model. They got to see those mine designs. They got to watch the ore come out of the ground, watch the mill processing, watch us and be part of us crunching the numbers. And what we found was the tons and gold grade that we expected to get out of the ground matched almost exactly with the tons and gold grade that we did get out of the ground. And this is just so important because this is a mine that 2.5 years ago failed primarily because the last group that was operating this mine was not able to match those things up. And so our ability to match those things up really underlines that we've been saying that an appropriate technical approach to the project will make it work. And that's what we just delivered, is evidence of that. And so you can see that, thanks for putting those words up on the screen. You can see that the gold grade, the amount of gold per ton of rock was 0.7% higher than expected. So that's right on the nose. The tons were, within about 4%, and the overall contained gold was within, I think, 3%. And yeah, we produced almost 2,500 ounces of gold out of those almost 15,000 tons that we mined. And our mill performed exactly the way that we wanted it to, which was that it recovered 95% of the gold in each ton of rock. So really, our mining crews performed well. They've ramped up. They know what they're doing underground now, and they're operating with increasing efficiency. We turned our mill on. It turned on well. We worked through the kinks that inevitably are present when you turn on a piece of infrastructure that's been in cold shutdown for a year and a half. It ramped up well and did what we needed it to do. Now we have this evidence that underlines that our workflow is what's needed to unlock the value of this asset. And now we're going to deliver these results to our board of directors, or we have delivered these results to our board of directors, and we expect them to support our plan, which is to turn the Madsen mine on and start consistently producing gold in just a few weeks. So yeah, it's been an exciting week for us here.
Rick Rule, whom we interview approximately monthly on our channel and whom our viewers and subscribers look to for his seasoned experience as a very successful, legendary natural resource investor, always talks to us about who is going to find the answers to the unanswered questions. What are the unanswered questions that need answers? What is your strategy and your plan for finding those answers? What's your timeline to getting those answers? And what are your decisions and your action plans going to be based on the results you get in those answers? And it's highly encouraging to me as a retired from my former career in manufacturing engineering, when you aren't just basing your look ahead based on drill holes, but actually bulk samples. You've gone in and pulled out almost 15,000 tons of mined material and seeing what is actually going to produce. So this is actually a trial run of the mine itself, not just sampling to characterize the asset, which is, and I see Shane's remarks, whom we have also had on our channel and our viewers are familiar with, that puts you, it confirms that you're on track to become a new high-grade gold mine in 2025. That was one of the things that got my attention at the Rule Symposium last July, was the aggressive timeline, frankly, the rapid-fire news flow that was coming out. And as we mentioned the last time we had you on, it was almost, I thought, too good to be true, because I'm accustomed to a certain pace and a cadence of progress and news flow from most mining companies that are making this transition towards production and still characterizing the resource and that sort of thing. It can just take time, and permitting and equipment and crews and all that. And of course, you operate in the real world too, so you're dealing with crews and equipment and all that. But still, the pace, the rapidity of progress, those signposts on the road to full production seem to be passing faster for West Red Lake Gold than for many other companies.
For sure. And that is absolutely by design. So we started this company 2 years ago with a vision that the gold market was going to do exciting things at some point in the next little while, and that if we wanted to give investors, including ourselves, really good exposure to a rising gold market, the best way to do that would be to be building a new gold mining company. And so you got to start that with one mine. And so we wanted to start it with a project that we could put into production quickly. Now, putting it into production quickly was an important goal. Putting it into production properly was always the first goal. You got to make sure you do it right before you do it quickly. And so it's taken us the money and it's taken us the 2 years. But like you say, going from purchase to production in 2 years is rare. It's very rare in the gold mining space. And so we're really proud of the huge amount of work that we managed to accomplish in that 2-year time frame, and the fact that this bulk sample validates that we were doing that work right, and we were pointing our efforts in the right direction. And so now we are positioned, because of this, the focus and the effort and the vision of putting the company in this place, to be one of very, very few newly emerging gold mining companies. And that matters because, in a gold market, if gold's rising and investors want to have exposure to a rising gold price, well, there's a couple options for what you can buy. You can obviously buy the majors, and that's where a lot of the big money goes, and so they certainly benefit. But another really good way of getting exposure to the gold market, and arguably one with more leverage, is owning companies that are doing this transition. They're going from spending the money and doing the work to get a gold mine ready, transitioning to producing gold and selling it into a strong market. That provides like a tangible reason for a company to be worth more. And so that's what we've been focused on delivering. And I mean, I just have to be very thankful that the gold market seems to have been listening to us this whole time, because as we mined this bulk sample, the price of gold, gained $500 in a month. It was just like unbelievably wonderful timing. And so then we were able to sell the gold that we produced from the bulk sample for an average price that's almost $3,300 US, which is just, reminds us of why we're doing it, which is that gold is incredibly valuable and there's very few new producers of gold out there.
If we could zoom back in on the areas that were mined, because it wasn't just the bulk sample just didn't come from one area, if I understand correctly. I'd like to put up the graphic, if I may, of the map of the area showing where they came from, and then frankly the table of data very quickly, so you can show us that the good news isn't just in one spot. Let me bring that back up right now. Hold on. And
yeah, for sure. So we mined, we built this bulk sample to be a really solid representation of what we're going to do at the Madsen mine. We didn't do it to show that we can pull it off, so to speak, in one spot. We did it to represent what it is that we are doing at Madsen. And if you want to have, a pipeline of tons ready to mine for the next 2 years, that's what you're always working for as a mining company, to have sort of the definition drilling done and the engineering work done so that your detailed plans are ready for 2 years. You got to be working all over the place, right? You can't be working in just one spot. And so that's what we've been doing. We've been doing definition drilling, detailed stope design, mine planning in across the parts of the deposit that we're going to be mining for the next 2 years. And then that process always just continues for the years beyond. And so that's why the bulk sample was taken from spots in all 3 of the major zones that we're going to be mining in as we progress at Madsen. The Austin, which is shown there in purple, the South Austin, which is shown in that sort of yellowy green, and then also up in McVeigh, which is shown in blue. And so, we mined in each of those areas. And there you can see the reconciliation results, the comparison of predicted versus actual tons, grade, and contained gold for each of those zones. And so, first of all, they're all really good results, especially when you're considering that this is a high-grade gold deposit. Another way of phrasing high-grade gold deposit is often, and in our case is certainly, nuggety gold deposit, which is to say that the gold isn't nicely evenly spread through the deposit. It's nuggety. That's how gold deposits in these incredibly rich systems. And so that's why we need to do that additional, the level of definition drilling that we need to do before we design the places that we're going to mine. And it's also why we believe it's particularly impressive that we've been able to reconcile so closely, because this is a system with what you call nuggety. Is the fancy way to describe a nuggety system is that it has high grade variability, right? So the grade varies quite a bit from one spot to another because of that nugget reality. But if you do the appropriate amount of work, then you can mine in the right areas and you can have an accurate enough understanding of what that area should average in gold grade, and you can come up with these results. So we're just incredibly proud of these results, and we're so excited for what these results set us up for, which is to continue doing exactly this. We didn't mine this bulk sample and stopped. We mined this bulk sample and then continued mining. Right now we're building up a stockpile of high-grade ore. That's what you always want. You want at least a month's worth of material sitting on surface as your just-in-case pile. And we're building that up right now. And then we expect to go into regular operations, which is to say we expect to start delivering material from the mine to the mill in not very long here. So this is just the first kick at what we expect to be, a good, sustained years of operation here at the Madsen mine.
Well, I got to give this little analogy here for those who are on my viewing audience that also are clients purchasing gold from us, because let me just share again the one screen there. Hold on. And here we go. The statement in here about the bulk sample producing 2,498 ounces of gold. So to a bullion dealer and his clients, we look at that number of 2,498. It's almost 2,500, which is 5 monster boxes of gold eagle coins, or Canadian gold maple leaf coins in this case, because it's in Canada. But that's that's millions and millions and millions of dollars in the coffers now of West Red Lake Gold to go ahead and double down and continue to exploit the richness of this resource.
Dunnigan, I have to ask you, is monster box an official term, or is that...
Well, some people say mint box.
I love that name right
now. People say mint box, some say master box, some say monster box, but I love it. Every major government mint makes an official sealed package. They produce a product like 1 ounce gold coins. The Canadian Royal Mint is no exception. They'll now put those into a tube. So the Canadian Royal Mint puts 25 1 ounce gold maple leaf into a single plastic tube with a pressure fit cap, and then they'll put 20 of those tubes of 25, a total of 500, in what's called a mint box, master box, or monster box is the most commonly used term, and then put mint sealed straps around it. Those happen to be yellow boxes that they use for that. It's very characteristic of that mint, and they're well respected and so on. So when we look at that number in our minds, we see 5 monster boxes from the
I love it.
Canadian Royal Mint. Actually, I was thinking yellow boxes is for their silver coins. It's not for their necessarily for their gold coins, but that's the same idea.
Gotcha. Very cool.
So again, this news flow is rapid and progressing. The timeline is exciting, and your emphasis is well taken. And we've heard this before from other companies that Rick has had us talk with about the reward that the market will typically assign to companies who are making this transition from the highly speculative, highly ambiguous exploratory stage, then into the pre-development, and now you're into development, and then when you're going into production and you really look like it's going to be green lights ahead for that. The risk to reward ratio, the risk comes down, the uncertainty comes down for investors. So the multiples of potential, price to earnings, that sort of thing goes up, because the market says, all right, there's less ambiguity here. There's more likelihood and less risk that we're going to see a return on our investment. So that's an exciting time. It's a time when suddenly you can move from, well, this was the multiple that the market was assigning us because we were in that stage. Now we're moving on to the next stage. The market typically assigns a higher multiple. Just happens to be when the wind is also in your sails with the market price of the metals rising at that same time. But you're also moving through that period faster than most companies do. So it's like a trifecta. And Rick continues to come on our show. He handpicks the companies that appear at the Rule Symposium because he has done diligence on them. He has invested in them, and he's recommending them. That's why you're here. That's why we're together, both under his, basically as a matchmaker, saying, guys, you got to get the word out. This is real. This is the real deal. If people want to stay closely connected to the progress that's coming from West Red Lake Gold, in addition to watching interviews here, which will continue, where should they stay abreast of the latest and greatest news releases and press releases that you have coming out?
For sure. Yeah. Thanks for asking that, because we try really hard. We are a rapid fire news company, and we try really hard to ensure that those who are interested have lots of ways of understanding what all that news means. So if you go to westredlakegold.com, the best is certainly to sign up for our email list. There's a pop-up there. There's various places where you can sign up for our email list. We put out certainly our news releases, but we also, for instance, I put out 2 days after each news release, I put out a video that explains what the news release meant and why we think that it was important. And we put out usually a series of articles regularly on what we're doing, why we're doing it, explaining various aspects of how mining works. So yeah, head over to our website, sign up for that email list, and then we're certainly also active on LinkedIn and lots of social platforms. So there's lots of different ways. We have an entire YouTube channel full of videos. If you want to see more of my face, you can certainly go over to that YouTube channel, and these interviews with Dunnigan are also there. So yeah, thanks for asking. We got a lot to say, and so if you're interested in the story, there's lots of ways of following it.
I want to remind everyone also, if you want to meet West Red Lake in person, as I will be there, and I'd be happy to shake your hand as well, at the Rule Symposium in Boca Raton, Florida, this July 7th through 11th. There'll also be a link in the description of this video so you can sign up for that. And if you can't travel, or if it's out of your budget to travel, you can attend remotely. It's much more affordable. So either way, whatever works best for you. Rick says he really prefers that people come in person because you just can't replace that face-to-face exposure. You get to hear the people talk on the main stage. You get to ask them your follow-up questions at their booth. You get to really dig down. But still, the information will be live streamed. It'll also be recorded. You get a month's of access if you subscribe for the virtual pass. And you'll see that you can do either of those using the link in the description of this video.
I would say, just let me pop one other comment in there. Again, everybody has their own schedules and financial requirements. So if you can't make it in person and you attend online, that is also a fantastic way of doing it. But one of the cool things about attending in person is that the audience, I would say, at Rick's conference is a group of really engaged, interesting investors especially in gold and in the mining space. So if you're looking for some people to trade ideas with, to lead, to be your investing, to add to your investing crew. We all need friends to look at. We all need people to talk to as we're trying to make investing decisions. And so it's a great place to try and build that crew as well, I would say.
Well, Gwen, we're grateful for your presence here with us, and we'd love to have you back again soon. Our audience is also aware of Shane, your CEO, who they met at the symposium last year, and we'd love to get him back on as well. So just keep us informed, because the pace of your news releases is truly impressive, and we'd be love to continue to bring this in front of our growing audience of subscribers and viewers here on Liberty and Finance.
Awesome. Well, it was lovely to be here, and I look forward to our next conversation.